DNA testing. It does not demand it. Elsewhere, the report states, many in civil society continue to raise concerns about our nation's criminal justice system at federal and state levels, including in the area of capital punishment, juvenile justice, racial profiling, and racial disparities in sentencing. We are committed to continued vigilance in our effort to enforce the law in a manner consistent with the Constitution and with the rights and dignity of all citizens. It is definitely a good and noble cause to be committed to continued vigilance in the effort to enforce the law in a manner consistent with the right and dignity of all citizens. But vigilance might just not be enough. If there are concerns about the system already, concerns that people might be sentenced unfairly, perhaps even sentenced for a crime they did not commit, shouldn't the system be at least fixed before continuing with something as irreversible as an execution? And what about the innocent? Juan Melendez is here today. He's one of the speakers. He spoke before. He, just like many others who have been exonerated, states that he was not saved by the system, but in spite of the system. Death sentences in the U.S. are always done in the name of the people, in your name, in the name of each and every one of you who is a citizen of the United States. Juan Melendez was sentenced to death, and it was only mere luck that prevented his execution and set him free. He was innocent. Today, as we stand here, he could have been and would have been dead for a crime he did not commit, if not for luck. All in your name. Your name is supporting a system that would have been guilty of his death. Can you look into his eyes and tell him, yes, I do agree to a death penalty system, even though this system was about to murder him, an innocent man? Or do you, the people, agree with Justice Scalia, who wrote in his dissent against last year's U.S. Supreme Court decision in the Troy Davis case? This court has never held that the Constitution forbids the execution of a convicted defendant who has had a full and fair trial, but is later able to convince court that he is actually innocent. Quite to the contrary, we have repeatedly left that question unresolved, while expressing considerable doubt that there is any claim based on alleged actual innocence is constitutionally cognizable. In other words, as long as you had a full and fair trial, it does not matter if you're guilty or innocent. The law allows your execution. And how does this correspond with the U.S. commitment on advancing human rights? Since the reintroduction of the death penalty in the U.S. in 1976, 1,229 people have been executed. And in this time, 138 people were exonerated from death row. And these 138 are the lucky ones. And, as Juan states, coincidentally saved by luck in spite of the system, not by the system. 138 people corresponds to almost 12%. That means that for every 100 people executed, 12 are found to be wrongly condemned to death and are actually innocent. 12 people out of 100. How many go to their death unfairly, wrongly? How many innocent people have been executed already? Innocent people executed in the name of the people. Executed in your name. A 2009 Gallup poll shows that 59% of Americans believe that an innocent person has been executed already. We commonly hear that it's better than 10 guilty men go free than one innocent man is wrongly convicted. The point of injustice is clear here. I don't ask for guilty people to be set free. I simply ask that a system which produces an irrevocable result, a death, to be scrapped. We, the people, the officers, the juries, may and do get a matter of innocence or guilt wrong. And although we cannot compensate for the time lost in prison or the trauma, we can exonerate and set a person free. But how do you resurrect an innocent person from the grave? In 2008, Barack Obama's Berlin speech moved millions to tears. It moved people to join efforts for freedom, for human rights, and against terrorism. And in his speech he said, "Yes, there have been differences between America and Europe. No doubt there will be differences in the future. But the burdens of global citizenship continue to bind us together. A change of leadership in Washington will not lift this burden. In this new century, Americans and Europeans alike will be required to do more, not less. Partnership and cooperation among nations is not a choice. It's the one way, the only way, to protect security and advance our common humanity. Yes, let us work together. Let us cooperate more and advance our common humanity. Let us start with scrapping some of the differences, big differences, such as the death penalty. In advancing our common humanity, we must tighten our views on human rights. We must work tirelessly in erasing human rights abuses around this world. And this begins in our own country. This can begin with the death penalty. I strongly believe we can do it. I believe in the American people. I have known them for a long time. I call many of them my friends. I was married to an American, and both of my kids are American citizens. I know that Americans have big hearts and are friendly and loving people. People who favor and celebrate life and not death. People who are religious, take care of their neighbor, and would do everything for their families. They are not vengeful and have blind furies. They are people who try to do what they think is right. But many of them have not even thought about the death penalty. It's simply something that exists. Something that does not get questioned. It's something about which the American people may not know enough. Maybe they didn't see the documentary I saw so many years ago. And if they didn't, they lack important information about the flawed system. And the system is flawed. The American Law Institute, the very same organization which provided the blueprint for the American death penalty laws in the U.S., has withdrawn its model death penalty law last fall. After research and analysis by top U.S. legal mind, the Institute concluded that the system it created does not work and cannot be fixed. It concluded, we cannot devise a death penalty system that will ensure fairness in process or outcome, or even that innocent people will not be executed. In Berlin, Obama also asked, will we acknowledge that there is no more powerful example than the one each of our nations projects to the world? Yes, we can definitely acknowledge this. But the question remains, which example do we want to give to the world? Is it the example of a country which holds on to a death system which does not work and cannot be fixed? Or the example of a country which admits its mistakes and corrects them by scrapping a faulty system? Through scrapping the death penalty system, the U.S., as stated in the introduction of the U.S. report to the UN High Commissioner on Human Rights, strengthens its own system of human rights protections and encourages others to strengthen their commitment to human rights. I look forward to this day. I look forward to the day when the United States and Europe can really stand together in the global fight for human rights. I look forward to the day when the U.S. will be a shining example for other countries. I look forward to the day when the brutal and archaic use of the death penalty will be scrapped from this world forever. Thank you. Bravo.